Well, if you need more proof that Canada is facing collapse, look at how it spends its money. Mark Carney now funneling an additional multi-billion-dollar check to Vladimir Zelensky, who was in Canada for the G7 summit. More billions for Zelensky and a fruitless war, when every military expert knows right now that Ukraine has lost this war. Why is Canada shoveling another $2 billion into this pointless war? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so how is this playing out in Canada right now? The most important thing that you can do to protect your family today is to protect them from cyber criminals and online predators. I mean, it is disgusting, this new era that we're living in. And there's one app that does it all. It's called Bunker. That's right. Bunker is developed by experts with 25 years of experience catching criminals and fighting cybercrime. They created Bunker to protect their own family, and now they're sharing it with you. What do you get with a Bunker family plan? Well, you get a private messenger to share messages, photos, and files with your spouse, your children, connecting only people that you approve. No spam, no surveillance, no imposters ever. Password manager, they also provide you to safeguard your family's online accounts, including financial, shopping, streaming, social media. And they've created a vault that will securely store everything for your family: wedding photos, baby pictures, special memories, financial information. You've got pictures of your IDs, birth certificates, passports, tax documents, wills, trust, insurance, all of it in that vault. So protect your entire family with a Bunker family plan, starting with as few as 2 people for just $9.99 per user per year. That's it. So visit bunker.life/redacted and use the code redacted for 25% off your family plan. David Clayton is an independent journalist, and he is live for us today in Ottawa, Canada. Great to see you, David. And, we had President Trump there at the G7. He left early, said he had some bigger things to attend to right now with the Iran-Israeli war. But he did at that table make quite a few headlines there. Maybe you can walk us through what he said, how it's playing out in Canada, and what this means for your country.
Well, the mystery for me, though, Clayton, is if he was so desperate to bail from the G7, which I would describe as a combination of high drama and high camp, because you can't take any of these people seriously. I personally find it hard to take Donald Trump seriously. He called out Emmanuel Macron for saying that I got important things to do. I'm going back to Washington to do them. He was so desperate to leave, but he did absolutely nothing since he's come back, or at least nothing that has been made public. But all of these people are playing roles. And Donald Trump, of course, was the high priest at the meeting, even though Mark Carney was hosting it. You knew right away who was in charge, because Mark Carney immediately just embraced Donald Trump in a sycophantic fashion that was almost nauseous. It was worse than his performance in Washington, almost getting on his knees and saying, "You are the most powerful, transcendent leader in the world today, and we can all learn so much from you." And at the same time, of course, I keep asking, why did Donald Trump want Mark Carney to win this election? Well, apparently Donald Trump wants a war as well in the Middle East, and Mark Carney's all for that war. Mark Carney's all for continuing the war in Ukraine. $2 billion in outright assistance, $2.3 billion in loan guarantees. This is kind of like loaning to the card shark, who you're probably not going to see next week because he's going to abscond with the funds. It's incredible how absolutely stupid Mark Carney thinks Canadians are, that he can continue to funnel billions of dollars into a war that's lost, completely lost for Ukraine. It's just a question of how badly they lose this, if there's a country remaining at the end of this conflict, and how far Zelensky is going to get out of Ukraine. Is he going to come to the United States for a haven, or is he going to go to some European country? But he's going to flee the country. But in addition to the $4.3 billion, Clayton and Natali, Mark Carney has just promised $225 billion to rearm Europe. So he likes to talk about rebuilding the Canadian Armed Forces, which have become an international joke under Justin Trudeau. But he wants to rearm Europe. Why? Every time we rearm Europe, they get into a world war. This is what happened in 1914 and what happened in 1939. And if we keep rearming Europe, they're going to take us into the Third World War. And I hate to say it, but I think we are potentially already in it as to what's happening in the Middle East. And I have lost so much respect for Donald Trump over the last 48 hours. This was a guy who was going to be the peace president, but he is as much a globalist as anybody right now. And even though he's pretending he's still his own man, and he has no time for Emmanuel Macron, and he really doesn't have a lot of time for these other European folks. It's all American. I'm going back to Washington to make some tough decisions. This is all a charade. This is all a complete facade. And Donald Trump has become part of this act. And he's become part of the theater in a way that I never expected him to be. I have always supported Donald Trump. I supported his reelection in the last federal presidential campaign. I don't know how many columns I've written saying, great job you're doing. I can't say that today. And I don't know when I can say that again, because he has, as far as I'm concerned, betrayed the MAGA base, and he has betrayed the people who wanted him elected most to bring some kind of peace and order to the chaos in this world. And I don't know where he's coming from anymore. I don't know if he's on drugs. I don't know if he's being hijacked by forces beyond his control, but it's truly frightening to me.
Now, when did Canada recover its economy and get so rich and start doing so well that it can arm Europe and Ukraine? When did that happen? Because I've been watching for it, and last I checked, your economic markers are in the toilet. So that must be nice to all of a sudden come into some cash. You have a rich uncle or something.
Well, Natalie, this is all red ink. There's nothing real about this. This is Mark Carney at his usual behavior. This is how he behaved as governor of the Bank of England. The answer is just keep printing the money and keep spending it and hope nobody asks, is this real? Is this money actually coming from some source? He hasn't even got a budget prepared and he has no intention of doing so till probably next spring. So what he's doing right now is he's borrowing money. He's printing money. He's putting money into the system the same way Joe Biden did with the Infrastructure Act and these other outrageous bills that poured tens of trillions of dollars into the U.S. economy. This is what Mark Carney's doing. He is basically saying, I am going to spend the money even though I'm not authorized to do so, even though I have no federal budget that explains where this money is coming from or where this money is going. It's completely outrageous. But once again, I've said from the beginning, Mark Carney intends to govern by decree. He intends to govern from the back room. So these clowns in the House of Commons, they just came back for a couple of weeks after being away for 5-6 months. They're all going home again on Friday afternoon. And my God, they can't get out of here fast enough. And 3 months now, they're going to be away for 3 months. Mark Carney will continue to spend money without House of Commons authorization, without the authorization of Parliament. He will continue to put Canada farther and farther in debt with a deficit this year that's going to be probably $1 trillion easily. It's already at that. And this is what we got in this country. And Natalie, you're quite right. Where is he going to find $225 billion to give to Europe? Well,
I saw this meme yesterday about how Canadians, they just don't care. They love all of this liberal rhetoric, so much so to their own detriment. And it was a silly meme about how there are 40 million African Americans and 40 million Canadians. So for reparation, we should give each African American a Canadian as a slave. And Canadians would vote for it because they are so co-opted by self-hating liberal policies. It very much feels like that. I'm not doing the joke justice, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. This has become a nation of masochists who just love to be punished by big government, that love big taxes, and they are allowing this theater. I love how. I heard it the other day, shambolic exercise in democracy. That is exactly what's going on here, because none of these people are taking any of this very seriously, even though we are on the verge of a potential nuclear war. If this escalates and continues to escalate, we've got everybody saying, hey, let's talk about Ukraine again, and let's rearm Europe so Europe can be better prepared to attack Russia in the next 5 years. It's absolute insanity. I don't know who's taking this very seriously anymore, but I can tell you that the participants at the G7 weren't taking this very seriously. They know they're all role playing. The one thing Trump said at G7, that I said, yes, exactly. Thanks for saying it. Bring Russia into this maze, because it's ridiculous to continue to treat them like a pariah state. And that's probably the best thing Trump said. I hope he was serious about it. But once again, we just learned yesterday that Donald Trump says they're walking away from improving relations with Russia. And this is only a week after he said, I had the most wonderful conversation with President Putin on my birthday, and he wished me the best and happy birthday wishes. So Donald Trump is almost schizophrenic at this point. He's two different people. He's the president that wants to have better relations with Russia. He's the president that just says we're walking away from that process. He's the president that got elected on a peace program, and now he's the president that is having nothing more to do with finding a peaceful solution to Ukraine, and I think wants to attack Iran within the next 24 or 48 hours because his friends want him to. And that's all there is to it. I think it's going to destroy his presidency, but he doesn't seem to care because, well, I guess he's not going to run again in 3 years. But yeah. I think he figures he can ride this out.
A lot of people agree with you in our chat room saying, I voted for Trump, and but I don't know what he's doing. Like one day he says one thing, the next day he's doing something else.
Although we just had Gilbert Doctorow on. He said in one of his newsletters this week that you can't sort of blame yourself if you supported President Trump, because if Kamala Harris had been elected president, we would already be in a full-blown war with Russia. I don't see it any differently. Do you?
Yeah, that's a great.
No,
he dodged a bullet with that.
Absolutely not. No, but yeah. I mean, we voted for Donald Trump for rational reasons, and everybody who did that on the basis that Donald Trump would follow through on that promise. He's apparently not doing that, but that's not my fault. That's not your fault. That's Donald Trump's fault. But I think it's a tragedy, because I think we had an opportunity here to have a president who truly wanted to work for the peace process. What he should have done in saying, I'm going back to Washington and we're going to have a peace conference. Instead of a G7 conference, we're going to have a peace conference, and we're going to try to solve the war in the Middle East and the war in Ukraine. That's what he should have done, instead of saying, no, I've got plans, and you're not going to like them, and start issuing these threatening posts on Truth Social against Iran. And that, I think, was a huge mistake, because he could have, once again, filled this void, because there's nobody else in the G7 who's really actively working for the peace process at all. And it's very, very tragic.
David Clayton, always great to see you, my friend, from Ottawa, Canada, keeping it real up there and watching what happens with these globalists. All the globalists were in your backyard. I had to take five showers after that. The G7 in your backyard. David, great to see you. Nice as always.
Nice to be here. Thank you so much.